And welcome back to Morning Scramble here in Prescott. I'm DJ Phone, sitting in for Sandy Moss. Our first guest today, Dr. Elizabeth Caspian from Flagstaff, who is working on eliminating the stigma associated with mental illness and helping people prevent suicide. I know you had a program before where you were talking about trying to prevent suicide among seniors. We've talked about young people and suicide also. Yeah, and I mentioned before the break that there's a local man named James Stem who has founded an organization for returning veterans suffering from PTSD, and the name of the organization is The Soldier's Best Friend. And he sets up these soldiers with animal friends to help reduce their stress, to get them reassociated with being around people, because there's so many stresses in wartime. And I remember talking with Mr. Stem about if somebody in a social situation or out and about happens to touch him from behind, obviously he's still on from being in wartime, and you're going to react that way. It's a very difficult transition. So Soldier's Best Friend, a great local organization to help people come back from that stress. Now, the whole country knows, of course, about Robin Williams. He died about a month and a half, 2 months ago. We know he was a beloved figure who took his own life. He had his own reasons, I assume, for that. He knew he had Parkinson's disease. He had had drug and alcohol issues. But Robin Williams' death had a very personal impact on you because of a date that you were on with the man who became your husband. Tell us about that.
Yes, when I heard about Robin Williams' death, I really was touched personally. And when I was dating and deciding, you know, to figure out who would I spend the rest of my life with, I certainly wanted a sensitive person that would understand the work that I do. And I can't give my husband credit enough. If you're in this work, it's not about you, it's everybody supporting you to do the work. That's absolutely true. And so Mr. Barry George is a huge part of that work that I do. And so we went on one of our first dates to see a film, Robin Williams, What Dreams May Come. And there's a scene in the film where he's on the other side, and across the way comes bounding his dog friend. And my husband and I look at each other, and at that moment we were just bawling, really embarrassingly, in the theater.
You weren't the only ones.
And so at that scene, I look over, and my husband too is just tears dripping, and it was embarrassing because we're having this big emotional moment. Thank you to Robin Williams. And I knew at that moment anyone that loved a dog that deeply, and any man willing to express emotion in public like that, that was the man I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. So Robin Williams demonstrated to me who my hubby was, and now here we are doing dog rescue and teaching middle school students self-regulation skills and doing the work to try to reduce stigma when it comes to mental wellness. We want to have a wellness model, not an illness model.
And you know, the attachment we have with our pets, and this again segues perfectly with our next segment with Elizabeth Haugen, but the attachment we have with our pets is so deep. And I was telling Trent, our cameraman here before the show, that I spent several years working in the funeral cemetery industry in California, and I personally buried more than 750 people. Now you develop kind of a thick skin doing that. But to this day, and I never once shed a tear, not one time. But if someone comes to me and says, I just had to put my dog down, I can't control myself. Why do we get so attached to our animals when we sometimes treat people so harshly?
Animals are always there. They're always forgiving. They're always willing to love and to be by your side. And all they need are simple things. A little food, some pets and hugs, and a nice warm bed at night, and they're perfectly happy. So they demonstrate to us simplicity of life. They take the complexity right out of life. They're so simple. And they demonstrate to us the capacity to have unconditional love, which is something that's very hard for humans to do because we set such high expectations of each other, and then when we're let down, we become pretty hopeless. An animal will forgive you every time. If you're willing to love them, they're willing to love you back. And you were talking about the gentleman with the dogs for soldiers. I can't tell you how important that is, because a soldier is in a defensive posture when they return. And what happens is when they have a dog and they're out in public, people give attention to the dog. So the soldier is safe, and thus an interaction can occur because the dog is the conduit to the person. So it's a really beautiful program, and I'm thankful and glad to know about that.
And we are very, very thankful for the information you brought to our attention today. This is Dr. Elizabeth Caspian. How can people contact your practice?
My practice is the Center for Creative Change. I offer peace of mind coaching. My phone number 928-774-7793 in lovely Flagstaff, Arizona, and coaching can be done by phone. You don't even have to come to the office. It's so safe.
And do you have a website they can contact?
I do, and that website is center-for-creative-change.org.
Very good. That's Dr. Elizabeth Caspian from Flagstaff. Thanks for making the trip down to join us today in Prescott. That's just been a wealth of information. It's been so helpful. We appreciate your coming down. We're going to be coming up very shortly with all sorts of furry friends from the Yavapai Humane Society. How's that for a segue?
Oh, I love it. I'm grateful.
We're going to have our friend Elizabeth Haugen on set with some furry friends here on Morning Scramble. Just want to remind you that I'm sitting in today and tomorrow for Sandy Moss. My name is DJ Phone. Stay tuned for more and with some furry friends coming up right here on AzTV's Morning Scramble.